Welcome to Tuesday Tea Time, the third one of the year. I am out on the trail with Ocasio. We are having a hike around the woods and we stopped. I am the person that hikes with a cup of tea. And see if I can turn the camera around and show you the view. So this is looking out over the north end of San Juan Island. And it's just one of those days. The sky is so blue and it's crisp and clear and beautiful. And Cassio is having a bit of a snack while I am drinking my tea. And I thought I would talk a little bit about the 5 levels of practice that I have been teaching. We'll start with dominance because I think that's what most people practice. And I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's bad. It's actually the reason I have a halter on Ocasio here. So as we're traveling around places where there might be cars, there might be things that scare him, we're away from his herd, away from his home. That's where I think dominance is quite appropriate. And you can certainly get to a level of training where you can do that safely without dominance, but it's pretty difficult to get there. So I actually really encourage people to practice dominance before they need it. Hey Sandra, glad you're here from Portugal. It's always such a good worldly gathering. Regina, I'm glad you've got a little bit of tea to join me. Perfect. So dominance, to me, just means you are able to control a horse's fight or flight. When they want to get away from you or they want to push into you, you have some way to manage that. And you're probably going to either need some tools like a halter and a lead rope or food rewards, one or the other. Because when their instinctive senses take over and they really want to push into you or pull away from you, that's going to be when your tools are going to help you redirect their attention until they feel better. And then when they feel better, they can communicate well with you. So I'm not against dominance at all. My training is how much could we do without dominance? What kind of relationship could we put in place so that the horse didn't go there? Or if they started to go to fight or flight, we could catch it early enough so that we could redirect their focus before they want to pull away or push into you. And with Myrna in the first film, I was incredibly successful with that. It takes a huge amount of time, but sometimes life is about investing time. Time is what we've got. So I still do this every day. I don't have as much time as I used to. And so when I go out around cars and vehicles, I make sure that I've got a halter on my horse Ocasio, just to make sure if we don't have enough training and he does go into fight or flight, or even before he goes into fight or flight, I have the amount of pressure it takes to redirect his focus until he's thinking about the partnership and not thinking about getting away or pushing into anything. So dominant training is certainly, I think, a necessity when you take horses away from their home, away from their herd. When I did that first film with Myrna, I didn't really take her away from her home or her herd for the first year. And we spent a lot of time in that first year really building the kind of stability so that we could leave home. Even when we did leave home, I made sure that she was halter trained before we went around vehicles so that she was safe. But there's a time and a place for training without dominance, and that would be any time it's safe enough. I teach this in 4 different levels, so 5 different levels actually. The first one would be observation. We watch the horses and we learn how are they the same as each other and how are they different from each other. And we learn their cycles of emotions. What makes them comfortable? What makes them curious? What makes them concerned? When we know them that well, then we can train with a feel and timing adapted to the horse. After that, I teach people a responsive practice, which is, can you simply take some sort of action before your horse gets concerned? And you don't have to fix it. You don't have to change it. You don't have to do anything about it. You just need to prove to the horse that you knew it was coming before they pushed or pulled away. And that responsive practice is the first part of really proving to the horse that you know them that well. Then, once we've got the responsive practice going a little bit, we get into the interactive practice. The interactive practice is the ability to start impacting some change in the horse's life. Can we develop their nervous system so that they don't get concerned so often? Can we take actions that redirect them so that instead of getting concerned, they actually are able to refocus, recenter, and be curious and engaged instead? Sometimes interactive is not going to be enough because they get really hooked on something that's bothering them. In that case, if we've done enough work, we can slip easily into assertive practice. And that's where we ask them to move their body. We ask them to back up, turn left, turn right. We actually ask them to use their muscles. And that is a faster way of redirecting them. But assertive is specifically when you don't need a halter. You don't need tools. You don't need a flag. You don't need food rewards. It literally just is that easy to ask and they say yes. And you have to earn that. You earn that through your observation, through your responsiveness, and through your interaction. You also earn it through insistence. And insistence is where your horse maybe ignores you. They don't have any fight or flight. They don't have any desire to get away or push into you. But they just don't feel like doing what you ask. And we can play with the insistent practice where we just kind of ask enough times that eventually they say yes. And we make sure that after they say yes, life is pretty good and pretty easy between us. That's another way of building trust. When I ask you to do something, even if you don't feel like it, it ends up pretty good. So there's really not much reason for you to resist. And that is useful to have that ability to insist when the horse is just kind of ignoring you. And you can do that without tools. You can't do dominance without tools, but you can do insistent without tools. So when I am doing training without any tools and in freedom where the horses get to make their own decisions, I am thinking about their nervous system. How do they feel? What makes them concerned? What makes them confident? What makes them curious? What makes them comfortable? All of those things. And you want to really ask yourself, if you push hard enough that the horse wants to leave you, was that training that they would have signed up for? Did they really want that training? And so that's mostly what I play with, is the kinds of training that I feel like my horses would voluntarily do, even if they might ignore me sometimes, in which case I might practice some insistent leadership. Even if they might get kind of hyper fixated on something and they have a hard time changing focus, I might be able to do that assertively, where I just put a hand on their chest and back them up a step and they go, oh, right, changing focus helps me feel better. Thanks for the example, Ocasio. And, you know, to build up the skills for that, I'm going to spend a lot of time observing them in a herd, watching how they interact with other horses. I'm going to spend a lot of time responding to them, showing them that I know what it looks like before they get concerned. And I'm going to spend a lot of time interacting with them, where just moving around them, I start seeing if I can impact how they feel. Can I make things better? And then just be peaceful with them so they remember how good life is with me. So those are the 5 levels of training that I do, the 5 levels of practice. Starts with observation, moves into responsiveness, moves into interactive, moves into insistent, and then it comes back down the scale to assertive usually. I can't do dominant unless I have food rewards or a halter or a rope or a fence or a flag. And that's okay. those are things that I'm going to practice before I go around fast-moving vehicles, before the horses really need my help for safety in a quick and efficient way. But other than that, it's not my favorite type of training. I would much rather invest a whole lot of time in the stuff that makes us feel good together. So if you guys are interested, I'll be running a salon on Thursday in my Patreon group where we discuss all of this a lot more, particularly around the category of anger and fight and horses that have some specific pushback about life and how you interact with that and how you help them and how you help them feel better. So that'll be on Thursday at 11:30, I believe. Might be noon. I don't know. But join the Patreon group if you want to find out. And I'll be back on Tuesday for some more thoughts about tea time. If you guys have a subject you'd like me to talk about, let me know. Put it in the comments. I love suggestions. And I'm going to keep this going throughout the year with little talks on Tuesdays. And every month we'll have more interactive salon groups in my Patreon group. And that's 2024 kicking off. We got clinics coming up. We got courses coming up. And best of all, we have adventures with this guy coming up. So Cassio's looking at the view too, and I'm really happy to be out here in the sunshine. Yeah, Julie, youngsters. We will talk about youngsters. As spring comes up, we've got to find some time for youngsters because there'll be a lot of them coming in. All right, you guys. Thanks for your time. Good to see you all. And I will see you next week.